Hello, I'm Sam from Jessup Says. The focus of my channel is to share and educate on how to buy less, buy better. It's not necessarily about buying less things, it's about buying something that fits its purpose perfectly and serves you for as long as possible. One thing that really fascinates me is when we buy things that we don't really love and then don't really end up wearing. Or, conversely, that we do really love and we still don't end up wearing. Now, I'm guilty of doing this. I've kicked the habit upon realizing that it was a habit, and I thought it would be an interesting conversation to have in a video format, and hopefully in the comments. Now, I've put the reasons why we do this, why we buy things that we won't ever wear, into two simple categories. The first and most prevalent, I believe, is the idea that it's just such a good deal. You know, those crocodile skin boots for $1,000. It's a great deal when they're usually $5,000. It sounds good, but I literally know one person who can pull off crocodile boots, maybe two. The second reason, maybe a more nuanced reason, is the idea of keeping it for a special occasion. Now this one I am way more guilty of. My first pair of Goodyear welted shoes that I ever got, I barely ever wore because I was afraid of wearing them out. Now at the time I was probably 16 and I didn't really know anything about Goodyear welted shoes or cobblers or anything like that. I just liked the chuckers, thought that they were high quality. They actually ended up being pretty decent quality and just wanted to have them. On reflection, I would have worn them more and had more experiences in them, and had I found out that cobblers existed and what Goodyear welted was earlier. But alas, they were my good boots and I didn't want to wear them out, except for special occasions, of course. Now, in essence, both of these points can be solved by the old buy less, buy better saying. By buying less, we are less likely to splurge on a random item because we are considering what we buy, when and where we buy it. Yes, maybe you see a nice pair of boots that you've had your eye on for a long time and they go on 20% off. Of course you go for it. Any saving is amazing and everyone loves a deal. I love a deal. But then buying better solves the problem of saving for a special occasion because you know the information about what you've purchased, you know how it's made, and theoretically you know how it can be repaired and restored over its lifetime. But if you can take it upon yourself to figure out those 2 points within yourself and come out the other side wondering exactly what to look for, then let's get into that. Understanding and embracing your personal style is an essential starting point when it comes to avoiding shoes that will just gather dust in your closet. Think of your personal style as a fashion DNA. It's what sets you apart and makes you feel confident. Imagine this, it's 2023, you're getting ready for a casual night out with some friends. You reach for those trendy high top sneakers that you saw on a popular Instagram influencer or TikTok star, who knows. They looked amazing on them, but when you put them on, it feels just a bit weird, something's off. And that's because personal style is more than just about following trends, it's about what resonates with you and reflects your actual personality. Your personal style is like a curated playlist. It should tell your story. Whether you're into timeless elegance of classic brogue shoes or the modern minimalist sneaker, your shoes should enhance your overall vibe, not clash with it. So before you go and splurge on some avant-garde, futuristic, made in Italy sneakers, pause and ask yourself, do those sneakers really reflect who you are and what you want to present as your style and as yourself to the world? When you prioritize your personal style, you're not just avoiding shoes that don't fit, you're creating a cohesive and authentic image that speaks about you. So the next time you're tempted to find and buy that trendy pair that's all the rage or is on a super hot deal, take a moment to reflect on your personal style and your journey and make sure that that choice truly resonates with the fashionable masterpiece that is you. Now, talking about fit, there's obviously the other type of fit, which is making sure that your shoes actually fit, and that is the most important priority of any shoe that you buy, because if you buy it and it doesn't fit, it's definitely going into the closet and it's definitely not going to be worn. So I have a full video on how to make sure that your shoes fit. That's absolutely worth watching. The thing I need to reinforce in this video here is that your shoes need to fit. If you don't fit, you don't buy them. It doesn't matter how good the deal is. Now, once you've got a good handle on that and you've meditated for a few hours and you've really got to understand yourself and you've started to look at your shoes and yourself in a whole new way, you've come out of your spiritual egg as a fully fledged menswear butterfly, I suppose, you need to start looking at what shoes you're going to buy. The upper seems to me to be the easiest place that you can immediately make a mistake and end up with a shoe that just doesn't fit your style or your use case. For example, if you need a shoe for walking to the office, an office job in a metropolitan area, around pavements, and you live in a fairly moderate climate, then I probably wouldn't start looking at things like whites or Knicks boots. Not only is their style probably not appropriate for most office situations, but the materials that they use are equally not suited suited to that office environment. These boots have had their leather selected to be weather resistant and highly water resistant and also highly wear resistant. They're extremely thick and hard to break in. They're designed for the outdoors, the woods. So if that's what your job is and that's what you're doing, then definitely Whites and Nicks is the right place to start looking. But back to that first example, the typical office person, let's say, the kinds of uppers that you want to look at are typically things that you would have the word calf in it, be it box calf or calf hide or cow hide or something. Anything to do with calf is typically to do with higher quality shoes that are more office appropriate. This kind of calf leather typically takes on a very nice shine, has a nice smooth and even finish to it, and typically an even color depending on how it's being painted, and they are fairly easy to break in, well, compared to something on a work boot leather for sure. If you've got one or more pair of calf leathers and you're looking for a second, or if your job doesn't really need you to be a formal dress type, then you may want to consider a quality suede. Low quality mall suede gives real suede a really bad name, so as long as you're looking at a brand that you know you can trust with telling you what the actual material is, you should be good. In my own experience, suede is the most useful, comfortable, and versatile material that I own, and it's probably the one that I go back to the most. Out of all the materials, if you've got a less corporate environment, then I would definitely recommend looking at something in a quality suede. Both materials, cowhide, calf, or suede, come in a range of colors, so let's talk about that. Now, choosing the right shoe color for different office settings is a subtle and yet powerful way to communicate your professionalism and style. If you're in an office setting, say a sleek corporate office, where professionalism is the name of the game, when it comes to colors, you are thinking things like classic blacks, dark browns, anything that is timeless and exudes sophistication and can complement a range of different professional attires, like a navy suit and a charcoal suit. If you're in a more relaxed office vibe, like a creative agency or a tech startup, then you probably have freedom to play with a broader color palette. Think of versatile shades like medium browns, tans, deep burgundies, anything that adds a touch of professionalism to your ensemble without compromising the professionalism underlying it. Remember, the key here is to be intentional, so consider the overall vibe of your workplace and then overlay your personal style before you select the color of shoe you want. The next material you want to consider is the sole. There are many different types of soles, and once again, depending on your use case, climate, and environment, you want to consider your options. The main thing you want to consider is the type of ground that you're walking on, how wet it gets, and how much standing you're going to do. Let's go through a few examples. If you're mostly walking on concrete, you can go with either a leather sole or a rubber sole. If your climate is colder and rainier, then I'd consider maybe a rubber sole of some form, and if it's warm, then I'd always go with a leather sole, as I personally just find them a little bit more comfortable. If you value comfort over everything, you'll probably want to consider something like a wedge or a crepe sole, as in my experience they offer the most squish underfoot and a lot of comfort. If your use case is particularly formal, then you'll want something thin like a single leather sole or a city rubber sole, or again that leather sole, once again depending on the climate. And if you work in the woods, then you'll want something like a lugged or a Vibram sole. Once again, it's matching your style and the use case and the upper material. That'll help you select the right boot or shoe and ensure that they're actually going to be something that you'll actually wear. And finally, the last thing that you want to consider is how they're made. Construction is an interesting topic, and brands obviously like to obfuscate the truth from you because they want to save money in as many possible places, and that means using lower quality materials. But there's a lot of information out there, and there are some things that matter and some things that don't. The TLDR is, if you don't want to look any further, you don't want to know anything about anything, you probably just want to look at Goodyear welted. It means that even if the boot or shoe is made from a sole that you don't like, or even the welt is a bad material, or the midsole needs replacing, whatever it is, most cobblers will understand what you're talking about, and they should be able to repair it or replace it. They should be able to. Like, you could go from a leather sole to a rubber sole, or vice versa, or switch it around, whatever you need to. A good cobbler should understand how to execute that. The other methods of construction, maybe not so much, and I've seen a lot of nightmare cobbler stories, so I really don't want to risk the complexity, personally for me. Also, if it's a sneaker, look for a cup sole with a sidewall stitching. But for those who want to know a little bit more, this is what you may want to consider. Goodyear welted construction is all about durability and resoling capabilities. Goodyear welted shoes are a timeless investment, perfect for individuals who want to prioritize long-lasting quality and often classic styles. The ability to easily replace the outsole means that they're going to be a staple. The kinds of shoes or boots that you want to look for with a Goodyear welt is pretty much anything that would be a shoe or a boot. Chelsea boots, Capto boots, Oxfords, Derbies, Brogues, Monks, loafers, you name it, you can find it with a Goodyear welt. But if the Goodyear welt is not for you and you're wanting something that's a bit more sleek, a little bit more flexible, then the Blake stitch is probably the one that you're going to want. The way that the Blake stitch works means that it ends up being a more typically comfortable and more lightweight package, and is sort of more seamless all around. The clean lines and the streamlined design of the Blake stitch shoe mean that they're very versatile. Although you can get pretty much every style in a Blake stitch as you can in a Goodyear welt, they're typically slightly cheaper and a lot sleeker in their designs than a Goodyear welt might be. They can't be resoled as many times due to the way that they're sewn together, and basically they sort of stitch through the uppers, and that means that you can't resole them infinite amount of times. But if you want a sleek and sexy shoe, got a welt on it that can be resoled, then this is the... When wet weather is a concern, storm welted shoes are probably your best ally. These shoes are built to tackle rain and tough conditions, making them ideal for individuals who prioritize function and durability. Storm welts are also the opposite of a Blake stitch in the sense of sexiness, though I do personally appreciate a thick welt. It's not this typical sleek look that you're used to. This kind of welt is not only very useful for things like hiking boots, I also think there's a lot of people who appreciate a chunkier fit, and this is right in that direction. So if you like a chunkier fit, maybe look for a storm welt. Though they do take quite a lot longer to break in, especially compared to a Blake stitch, which is pretty much going to break in immediately. So do be warned on that front. Each of these welts and each of these constructions caters to different people, different priorities, and you need to ensure that you're finding the perfect footwear and the perfect combination of all of those things for your unique lifestyle. Hopefully after all of that, you should have a pretty good idea of what you should look for before spending your money, and hopefully ending up with a pair of boots or shoes that you get to wear a lot and you get to enjoy for a long time, and hopefully spend less money on stuff that ends up in landfill. Thanks very much for watching. Links are in the description as always. Look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Cheers.